Okay, I want to call to order the Police Facility Oversight Committee. We're located in the City Hall, Jeannie Selick Room, 204. Number 2 on the agenda, public appearance for non-agenda items. I don't see anyone in the room here. I don't see anyone on Zoom. Number 3, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of November 27, 2023?
I move to approve the minutes.
Are there any questions or corrections on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of November 27th, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Going to agenda number 4, preliminary landscape and plaza design. Who's going to present that?
I'll do it, and Beth is going to share her screen.
Yes, so.
Could you give us your name, please?
I'm Corey Campbell with FGM Architects.
And just to introduce our team, so Beth starting with FGM Architects, Corey, and then Reagan Porter as well with FGM.
Thank you.
So the landscape options that we're going to show were created by JSD. They're our landscape architecture consultant, Kevin Yeska, and these are kind of hot off the presses. They're early in the process, so they're sketches, but the idea is to give a sense of where the project might head as we continue to develop it. There are 2 options that we're going to talk through, but some of the major goals were reaching out towards the corner of Research Park Boulevard and Lacey Road with a landscape gesture, creating a welcoming plaza space outside the main entry to the building, and also making sure that we're being aware of making the site easy to traverse for everyone. So there's some accessible parking right to the north of this entry plaza, and so we'll have a ramp that makes an accessible route and also some stairs for that. And then there are also accessible routes that connect from the sidewalk level up to the building level, which is actually the first floor of the building will be several feet above the sidewalk level. So this first option that you're seeing, it's sort of a radial scheme where the landscape is allowed to interrupt that entry plaza to some extent. What you're seeing on the screen in the hatched, kind of speckled, I'll call it gray color, is concrete. And then the various colors of greens represent different heights of plantings. So none of that's really been selected yet. It's really just to kind of give you a geometric organizational concept. In this one, if you were to come off the sidewalk on Research Park Boulevard at the right-hand side, that rounded ramp is an accessible path from that sidewalk level up to the building's first floor level. So you can traverse that on a bike or a wheelchair, or you could head straight if you were able-bodied right up the steps to the main front door. Then I can share the other, I'll just mention a couple of other things. Each of these is intended to have kind of a prairie natural landscaping look that extends out to the corner. Some of the paths you see, we're trying to talk through what makes the most sense in terms of the amount of on-site paths that we need. We don't want to be redundant with what the sidewalk already provides, but we do want people to be able to enjoy that landscape. And then the last thing I'll mention is the red object that you see in the lower right corner. That's intended to be a monument sign that introduces the building from the corner there.
We'll talk about the handicap access to the parking lot as well.
Yeah, so from the parking area will be flat. There will be a 0 curb cut onto the sidewalk. A person from the parking lot could walk up those stairs to the plaza, or they could follow that switchback ramp, which would also take them up to that same plaza level.
So like, this is more of a central civic type plaza. It's a round thing up there.
Right.
And there'll be benches in there. Are those 2 things?
Well, there's 3 orange things. Those are like tables, is that
Oh,
what?
Yeah, tables and chairs, and there are some opportunities for some either loose benches or built-in kind of seat walls along some of these planting beds.
So I think you answered one question, which the circular piece is the civic center of it. Then I assume these are tree plantings.
The bigger circles that have the black dot in the middle are likely to be trees, and then the other kind of squiggly lines in various colors would be different kind of prairie plantings of various heights.
And so when he shows you the second option, I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be one or the other, it could be, you know, elements from each one.
Yeah, why don't we introduce the second one and then we can always come back to this one if it spurs further discussion.
What do I have? Kind of
Yeah, this one tries to marry two different approaches. One is kind of the more formal entry approach to the main lobby of the building, but then introduce kind of a more relaxed landscaping and have those intersect near the front door. So the way the accessible path on this one works is a little bit different. If you were in the parking area, it's similar. There's still a switchback ramp, but the switchback ramp takes on some of that relaxed geometry. Going in the other direction, the ramp is much longer, and what that allows us to do is it's actually not considered a ramp, it's just considered a sloped plane, and we wouldn't need railings or anything like that. So because of the added length, it's not as steep, and so therefore doesn't require railings. The approach to the building is a little bit narrower, and JSD was suggesting that maybe there's a material change at the steps that then extends out into the landscape with potentially some kind of feature stones that could become benches and things like that. I didn't point this out on the other scheme, but each scheme does have a place for 3 flagpoles near the front door. They're represented by those 3 dots. In the other scheme, they were organized around that kind of central circle. So any questions on
Can you
this
put
one?
these up side by side or not?
Yeah, I think we can.
Are those
So there's no
tables near
monument?
are those tables near the front entrance?
Yeah, the orange, yeah, thanks Beth. The orange circles with the kind of smaller rectangles around them in a crisscross shape, yeah, that would be a table with 4 chairs, so,
Can you point out the flagpoles on?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Beth's got a mouse. So there are those 3 dots in that center circle area, and then in the other one, they are adjacent to the tables, yeah.
So the one on the left, you could, that center circle area could be a monument, it could be a statue, it could be what?
Yeah.
Piece of art.
Yeah, these are very early sketches, so like I said, a lot of decisions haven't necessarily been made, but the goal was to show 2 different attitudes for how we could integrate the landscaping with this entry sequence.
You know, Corey, what is on the right one with that ramp, is there like an extra block of stuff?
Yeah, I think those are bike racks.
These are bike racks.
I believe so. Those weren't there when we looked at it earlier, and I think JSD added them. But I think that's what they are.
So which one, I'm good.
Don't see a monument sign on the right-hand one?
There's this orange one down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, on Research Park and Macy.
So they both have a monument sign of some sort.
Here.
So one that looks more convenient for bikes, I would take it, the one on the right. If we just wanna ride to the station as opposed to the one on the left.
Yeah,
Or no,
questions,
doesn't make
well,
a
the
difference.
questions, do you want bikes right up to the front door like that, I guess might be. Because the one on the left, can I explain a little bit more, Corey, how that works? It's not, isn't there like a landing in there or something on the one, on that circle, half circle?
Yeah, so the,
You could show on the mouse how that goes.
yeah, can I borrow the mouse?
Yes.
It might be easier. Thanks. All right, so you're essentially at sidewalk level here. If you were to go up this ramp, this slopes up to an intermediate level here. From that intermediate level, you could walk or roll to this level. So you'd kind of skip this level, which is in between. Or you could step down these steps and rejoin this ramp. If you continued up the ramp, then you would end up at the highest level at the main entry.
But there's flat spots in there, like landings, because
Yeah.
it's a shorter distance, it's a little steeper, so when it's steeper, every so often you have like a landing area.
Yeah, this zone here, from the bottom of these stairs up to where you could connect all the way through back to this intermediate landing, that's the steepest part of it. This is a true ramp, so it's traversable in a wheelchair, but it is steep enough where you would need railings on both sides, just for that section, I believe.
So when it's over 5%, you have to put railings on
Yeah.
it, correct? And the other thing I mentioned too is, you know, they show a lot of, like, both options, they have a lot of sidewalks showing out to the Lacey Road, and you wouldn't necessarily have to put all those in, yeah, it's just.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we don't necessarily want to be redundant to the function that the sidewalks are already providing. The other thing that JSD has suggested is that some of these fingers that come out into the landscape or on this scheme, since this is part of our accessible route from the corner, we would want that to be paved. But some of these other paths that you see in here wouldn't necessarily have to be hardscaped paths. They could be stabilized granite or something like that, decomposed granite that you could walk on, and maybe you wouldn't maintain them in the winter, you just let them get snowed over.
Oh,
It's kind of like here in front of City Hall, we got some, we got a lot of sidewalk in front, some of that never gets plowed.
Yeah.
Left.
and where would the bike racks be on the one on the left?
That's a good question. I don't know that they're accommodated yet. I think they are actually off screen, if you can see these little dashes here.
Yes.
And so I think the difference was we had bike racks here. On this one, we needed a little bit more room to do this kind of more expressively shaped ramp. And so the bike racks had to find another home, and they placed them out here along that accessible route.
But you could place one on the left on that last part of the loop as it gets up.
Up here?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
You could put one there, you could have those.
Yeah.
That could be another area, you just widen out the sidewalk and.
Yeah, I think in each case, there's even an opportunity to maybe create a little pocket along the Research Park Drive sidewalk that has bike racks in it as well, if that made sense to do.
I have a question, just because going through the minutes and when we talked about a landscape before, there was something that was brought up that I'm assuming you went through those and incorporated them here, or the prairie, there was an issue with having to burn the prairie every year close to the building and all that, that's been addressed?
I'm not aware of, I know that is one way to maintain prairie grass. I'm not a landscape architect, so I don't know if that is always required. My understanding is you can just mow it and get the same effect if you.
Yeah, we're not gonna be looking at burning right next to the building. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't
There are
think so.
some plants.
Right,
there are
that's
some
something that
plants-
was brought up,
Yeah.
it's in the minute, last
Okay.
minute, and I thought it was addressed by the new
Other-
design or whatever.
Other projects that I've worked on where we've used these kind of natural landscape plantings like this, we haven't done burning as part of the maintenance.
Okay, so that's not involved in.
I wouldn't think so.
And there was something also before that we're talking about, about the elevation of the building, first floor would have to be raised, and that would be more money, I think. Was that something that was also,
Yeah, these schemes incorporate the latest and greatest, both basement floor elevations and first floor elevations.
Okay.
So the paths that you see when I'm referring to these accessible paths, the length of those have been worked out to accommodate the correct elevations for the sidewalk in the building.
I also, one more thing. From Fish Hatchery Road, I thought, there's a sign or something that says police department on the fish hatchery side?
Yeah, there will be a building mounted sign that faces that direction, yeah.
So all the circles with the dots are trees, correct?
Yeah, the big circles with the black dot in the middle, yeah.
And trees could be, an big oak tree to
Yeah.
like a 10 or 15 foot small,
Yeah, they could be ornamental or shade trees.
So maybe, those aren't all necessarily big trees.
They haven't made any of those determinations yet, what kind of trees or anything, but yeah.
But yeah, people think of trees, they think of like 60-foot trees, but that's not. In a landscape plan, I guess you're probably gonna see more.
Yeah, it might be more like what you see out the window here, kind of multi-stem, shorter height. Prairie grasses don't like to grow in a lot of shade, is my understanding too. They're meant to be kind of more out in the open.
Well,
Any preferences, thoughts on either one of them, or?
I like the one on the left, but.
what is the
That's fine.
difference? I know there's, in the entrance, there's the white, rectangles. There's different shading here, what does that mean?
The thought was that we might use a tinted concrete for the path that extends out into the landscape, and then more of a traditionally colored concrete for the plaza that connects out to the sidewalk, just so that you get a little bit of color contrast.
Okay.
And then the other one is showing it more monochromatic throughout.
I see more green on the right side, or is it just an optical illusion?
I like the one on the right, cause I mean, you have your bicycle
Mm-hmm.
stands there already. You said you wouldn't need railing for the one on the right, correct?
You still would at the steps, but not for the ramp.
But Jimmy, you like the one on the left?
I can be convinced, I mean, just off the top of my head, yeah.
You like what the left?
But I'm not
I'm
tied to it. I can be convinced. Andy?
I like the flow of the one on the right, but I like the central civic feature from the one on the left. If there's any way to incorporate that.
Yeah.
Well, this is still kind of wondering, we're trying to get feedback.
You know, especially the one on the left, you bring up a good point, Andy, with the flags being kind of like in that little circular part right there.
You could do something community focused with that, I think.
By the way, David Rousseau is joining us, I see up there.
Yeah. What do you think, David?
Well, it's your building, but if you ask me as a professional, I like the one on the right better, and primarily because it has a more informal feel to it. I guess I'm a little reluctant to the kind of Versailles very formal look of the one on the left and the hard geometry of it. I like the more informal fit of the one on the right.
That's a good point. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on this one before we move on?
So a question on the one on the right, I assume that path that's going off to the left would continue
Yeah, I
somewhere.
think I can work the mouse go. I think I can zoom out and show you kind of how that works.
Okay.
And I'm thinking we probably would not actually put that in, unless we'll do some crap, we wouldn't, it would not be concrete.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't pave that. It's hatched and colored right now, like this is all the same paving, but I think some of these additional paths, we probably wouldn't pave with hard steel.
Like you could do is crushed gravel or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, it's redundant, and you get
The sidewalks right there.
Okay, are we done with that agenda item? Any other questions, comments? Okay, item number 5, exterior design updates and materials.
So and I'm gonna present this as well. So the next step is to look at the exterior of the building. I think by now you've probably all seen some of these images. In fact, they're pinned up in the lobby now. But we just wanted to give you all a chance to ask questions and discuss them. I think there are 3 images. This first one is from Research Park Drive, very close to the intersection of Lacey Road. So the first thing you'll probably notice is the big lawn in the foreground. Exactly what we were just talking about. We'll replace that in future images. So that's kind of part of the balance here is how formal, like we were just saying, do we want this civic entry to be versus how relaxed do we want the environment to feel? With regard to the building, there are 3 primary materials in addition to glazing windows. So the kind of reddish brown color is a brick. The caramel tan color, we're gonna likely use a clay masonry product there as well, but we're gonna use some different size masonry units and different coursing patterns to introduce some texture along with the different colors. And then the final material is metal panel. It's similar to what you have on the library. And it would create those kind of overhanging eaves and an accent around the top of the building and at other places around the building. heading up that sidewalk that we were just looking at, there's a glass volume that occupies both the first and the second story. So spaces on the second story, and we'll be able to look down into that space as well. And that's meant to create this kind of welcoming and inviting front door to the building. We can probably flip to the next couple of images.
On the tan, you're talking about texturing, are you thinking like a stucco type finish, or?
It would be
Okay.
yeah, almost like a brick, but when I'm talking about texture, I'm talking about varying the coursing. So you see there's like a taller module and then a shorter module, longer pieces. So it's not gonna look like a brick, it's gonna look like a larger masonry unit. There are a couple of materials that we're looking at for maintenance and affordability. We're looking at cast stone, we're looking at concrete masonry, and we're looking at clay. Clay being what brick's made out of, they just happen to be a lot bigger. It's likely that we're gonna go the clay route.
Why is that?
It's a nice balance between the material being really durable, like the rest of the brick is quite durable, but it's expensive. It's less expensive than the other two options. The other two options give you a little bit more variation in color and texture than the brick is going to do. So that's the trade-off.
I mean, that's a question that people were asking about the materials, and
Yeah.
maybe that the materials that are being used is too expensive. So I'm glad you brought up the.
Yeah, we're trying to be economical with
So now
those.
what's above, to the right of that brick right there, look where the mouse just was?
That's the metal panel.
That's metal panels there, okay. And
So
then
there's
the-
two colors of metal panel. Kind of the larger areas have a dark gray metal panel. And then the areas that are just below the building overhangs, and in some cases they're pulled down to create that second story wall, is a textured metal panel. And like I said, it's similar to what you see over on the library.
On the administrative wing on the second floor, is that more metal panels?
Yeah. That kind of carries through past the lobby.
It's very nice.
What about the brown kind of up on the eaves?
The underside of the roof, we're still designing the interior of that lobby space, but what's shown in this rendering is a metal ceiling that would have a wood look texture.
Would the soffit or the fascia be a different color, or would it be the same color as the metal panel? You know what I'm saying?
It'd probably match one of the two metal panels in color. Yeah, we wouldn't introduce a third color.
I can just say that the material choices shown so far are really very consistent with the design guidelines, and it looks really good to me.
Good.
Thanks.
This is now around the back side of the building. So we're looking at, on the right-hand side, the north-facing elevation, and on the left-hand side, the west-facing elevation. So that would face Research Park, or I'm sorry, Fish Hatchery and your neighbor to the north. So again, same mix of materials. We're using that caramel-colored clay masonry product to kind of ground the building, and then looking for opportunities where it can kind of pop up and create some vertical interest. We've taken the brick at the stair tower and carried it through all 3 stories, so you get this kind of vertical punctuation, and then you see the metal panel creating that second story on both sides of it. On the right-hand side of the image is kind of a carport for covered outdoor parking. Most of this area that you're seeing in the back is on the left-hand side, indoor parking, and on the right-hand side, evidence processing and indoor vehicle storage for vehicles that are used as evidence. So it's, the first floor is very back of house, and then the second floor is what I'll call public space for the police force.
And how many vehicles can fit into the evidence bay for evidence?
One vehicle.
I think just one there, yeah.
I guess, given the elevation and the fencing, how visible is this going to be from off-site anyway? Other than the second story pieces?
Yeah, I don't think that you'll see a lot of the cars in the parking. We're getting, now that we have the landscape underway at the front and the elevation kind of settled in, we'll start modeling the actual topography, because if you'll recall, Fish Hatchery Road is elevated quite a bit from the creek, and then from where this site is. So to some extent, you will be kind of looking down towards this, but we're gonna have a fair amount of screening with, like you said, a fence, some amount of landscaping. So I don't think it's gonna be invisible, but it's not gonna be a primary focus. I think your eye is gonna be drawn to the upper 2 stories. So this is just pulled back quite a bit so you can see a little bit more of the extent of the building.
So Corey, on that's right to the right of the stair tower, that glass area up there, is that open onto, no, to the left, right there? Is that open, does that glass face out to the 2-story lobby or not, or is it in the office?
It doesn't, that's the break room at the 2nd story.
Okay.
Yeah, so we took, at one point we did have the lobby volume coming all the way out to that back wall. We pulled that back to end at about where the elevator is.
So is that tall glass in there for the?
There are some tall windows there for that break room, yeah. So they'll have views to the north and to the west. One of the things that we're looking at now is in this image where you see those cars parked under the outdoor canopy. That's a long retaining wall, and the image now is showing that as carrying that masonry all the way along the retaining wall. We were having a discussion this morning about what the retaining walls on the site probably want to be made out of. Can't remember the name of the product.
Ready for all, block, ready.
Yeah, so the landscape architects have suggested another kind of landscape stone product that we could use to make those retaining walls. In this case though, since it's part of the building, we may continue the foundation wall out, and that may end up being a cast in place wall. It'll be screened by this vehicle parking and this canopy. That's something that we're still kind of investigating.
These are all the exterior images.
Yeah, any questions on any of these?
This is what we see from Fish Hatchery, right? This is the,
Yeah, Fish Hatchery Road would be, so we're kind of standing almost in the creek right now in this
Creek,
image.
okay.
Yeah, so Fish Hatchery Road would be a little bit more turned, but yeah, essentially these are the 2 elevations. Yeah, that face that road.
yeah.
If I can explain something, and can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, good.
I just want to offer you all some feedback because I struggle in some of these pieces when we're doing, speaking to the public or the council. But obviously, price becomes a big, the cost of the building is a big topic of conversation. And I am not against any of the things that are shown on the outside. The looks, and you all here, I'm listening to your feedback, and I think we're all on the same page. However, one of the things that I, being working in this building and being the head of this department, I'm more interested in the interior as to, the engine of the vehicle. Is the engine gonna last? Does the engine have what it needs to move the vehicle or the ship? So for me, the inside is the most important piece. The exterior, as long as it can weather the storms, I'm okay. However, when cost comes in, the big thing, pushback from the community, or what some of the feedback from some taxpayers is, this building looks too nice. It's a Taj Mahal. It's too much money. I'm just giving you that feedback, and I don't want to influence your decisions or what you're thinking. I'm just letting you know, how do I respond to that? Or how do we respond when someone from the public makes those comments or asks for a response?
I guess for, municipal buildings, you generally will have a longer lasting material on the side. It's not like you're gonna put vinyl siding on this or aluminum siding because you just don't get the longevity. I mean, we have to respond to the future taxpayers that they're not having, have a good envelope on the building.
That's a common thing, Chief, that we do get even on the interior a lot of times, is that it looks so nice. Our driving factor on the interior and the exterior is really to give you a durable building that's going to last you for the next 50 years, right? And so, but it's also our job to take those durable materials and put them together in an aesthetic way while still being very cost effective while doing it.
Yeah, the goal, of course, with these materials is twofold. It's exactly what Reagan said, to be really durable, to withstand the test of time. They're low maintenance, brick is something that's been around for quite a long time. The second is to fit in with the rest of the civic development. So this is the same kind of kit of parts that's used on City Hall, that's used on the library, that's used on the pro-mega buildings up the road. So we feel good about the ability for them to kind of last, be low maintenance, but also give you that kind of civic presence that the building deserves.
I mean, I think if the building was out, our public works maintenance facility, it's outside the urban area, so it's got a lesser finish on the outside. It's got more of a metal panel, it's a pretty good sized building. But that made sense, where it's at, but as Corey said, it's part of the campus here, you can't put metal siding on this.
Yeah.
My gut reaction to what you're saying is, as a resident of this neighborhood, this city, are people saying are we being too ostentatious, being something too grand? Because they don't understand all of this, how much is this, how much is that, they don't have that information.
Correct.
So I think if I were to find out, do we need this building? Why do we need this building? What's inside this building? And you know how people are, my taxes are pretty high. I'm always complaining to you about that.
Yeah, you are.
They are. There's a possibility that they're gonna go higher for next year. So when you go to answer, there have to be a well thought out answer, because it's not just one particular answer. So it's the budget, do we have the money? If we do, and that's when I was talking to someone about the building, and we're talking about the range, and I said, well, if we had the money, should we have it? Not just to have an extra thing, it would be nice, but the need to have it. What does it bring to the community?
Right.
And I found out that the person I was talking to wasn't really familiar with what the purpose of having a range was. It's not just go in there, shooting. There's other things that people need to train for. The same thing would be to understand, why do officers need a break room? Why do they need a locker room? What happens in those areas?
Right.
And a lot of people here don't have a lot of contact with the police department in terms of they come in there to, arrested or for interviews. They don't. The majority of the people don't have, but it will be good for them to understand that.
Right.
And the money issue, I was fine with 35 million, that went up to 44, that now we're talking about 50 something, so. I want people to understand that this is not a capricious thing that we're trying to do. And that's where you come in trying to explain that to people. Some people are more sophisticated than others, and they want more information than others, but it should always be there and available to use whatever information you have when we have those meetings out there in the community.
But it's also a sense of pride. What people believe about the police or whatever, it is part of the city. And it is part of how we present ourselves, and just putting on an economic development hat, when you have companies, corporations, and everything else like that, they are looking at the city. And part of it is looking at how we present ourselves to the community, and buildings are, a part of it. So I think when people say it looks like a Taj Mahal, it's like, well, like you say, it can't look like a pole building either.
Exactly, but see, when we go to talk to people, those are the points, the things that we, in a presentation, should be included. Because I wasn't thinking about that, but you mentioned that now, and I'm thinking, what is it? What do we have around here? All the businesses that are here, that we continue to attract, all this, and people aren't aware of that, don't think about that all the time. I wasn't a few minutes ago, and you bring it up. So those are things that I think would be good to incorporate in a presentation to the community. And you tailor, you know, depending who you're talking to at that.
Yeah, I can add something here that might be helpful. In addition to all of the points that are so important about the quality of the building, its longevity, its burden on future taxpayers, the civic pride that you invest in it, all of that, there's a practical side to this as well, and that is you could also point out that this land was made available for a police facility basically for free by Fitchburg Center allowing its conversion from park and open space use to a police facility. And the price you pay for that is having to meet the design standards of Fitchburg Center, which would not accept stucco and vinyl siding and things of that kind. The standards call for a high quality exterior, very much like the rest of the Civic Center. So that's another point that you could make.
Thank you for that, David.
Thank you.
People sometimes, a lot of times don't understand all the services that a police department, and I mean, within that structure, provide to the community. You know, you think about arrest, what's involved in that? How having a building like this would help not only the process, but safety for officer, for the person. I mean, all those things, it's not just putting the handcuffs on someone and, okay, and what happens after that. So a lot of times, people don't understand the value of the building itself and everything that happens in there. That you need the space, you need all those things.
And we hope to accomplish that if we do get it to access, give the community the access for it.
And if you're gonna talk to people, we contrast what we have now.
Right.
I've never been to the police, well, maybe once, the police department here. They don't know how cramped that is.
Right on.
So to show contrast between the two would also be helpful.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I was gonna say, you're not gonna make everyone happy. I mean,
No.
if we put up a pole barn, you're gonna have an equal number of people complaining about that, not just David, within the community. And I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think this is a Taj Mahal. I think it's a building that's designed to last, that's made with durable materials, that I think we are making wise choices in terms of trying to balance cost with durability and aesthetic. I think it is what it is.
Well, that's true, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we give them the most accurate information about what we're doing. You're right, we're not gonna make everybody happy. I would still go along with what we're doing, even though my taxes are gonna go up depending on what you tell me. Okay, I'm reasonable, so.
Since when? All right, let's go on to item number 6, preliminary interior design images.
So, I'm, again, Reagan Porter with FGM, interior designer. So we have 3 different options that we are starting to look at. These are still very preliminary and still need to be developed. Not even all materials are on here. So just for reference, in your bottom right-hand corner, where the star is, that's where you would be standing and looking towards the elevator in this left-hand image. And then the image on the right is if you were standing just to the left of the elevator if you come up on the 2nd floor, looking back towards the front of the building and the vestibule. So what you're seeing though in the left-hand image is as you first come in on the right side of that image is just bringing in that stone from the exterior. So we have a strong connection from the exterior to the interior because we do have a wall of glass there. So you're bringing in that stone exterior material onto the inside. Then in this option, the other thing we started to look at was a few different variations on railings. And so this one is if you were to take vertical elements and bring them down onto the soffit right below the 2nd floor. that middle, and right where Beth's cursor is, right below that, Beth, where you would walk into the community room is the entry point to the community room, starting to give you a lot of glass just to the lobby, so you have that connection, and starting to develop that so that when the community comes in, they feel welcome and they have a place to go. So then, the big move here is taking the elevator component of the space that goes the 2 floors, having some sort of material that would come up and wrap onto the ceiling, so that as you're walking in from the vestibule, it's really drawing you into the space. Here we're showing in the center there some sort of sculptural lighting that's coming down, just to kind of anchor the space and give you some interest in that 2-story volume. Just for reference, in this image on the very left-hand side, you're starting to see the window into records where you would come in and the counter there. And then just bringing in different linear elements. We have some L shapes going on in the lobby, and so at the elevators where those openings are, potentially bringing in some kind of natural material to accentuate those areas as well.
It's beautiful.
So the rest of the space would be in there just drywall then, like a painted drywall then?
No, I think we will still add, potentially different materials, just yet to be developed. This was really more of like a massing study and what could we do with this space? What could it turn into? So, we also need to look at, we've got, in that first option, there was a zone in the middle in terms of a material, but right now we don't have in potentially like an acoustical ceiling tile that would get put in there to help absorb sound and that sort of thing. So still a lot of development that needs to happen in each one of these.
How big is that lobby?
I was just gonna say.
It looked like a hall.
I was gonna say that the other thing that's not depicted in the image is any furniture yet, and it makes the space look really big in the rendering. It's actually not very large, and if you're gonna have a community room, this is sort of the pre-function space to that community room, and it's really the right size for that kind of traffic to flow in and out.
So generally, what it means by pre-function space, it's kind of like in the council chambers down in the hallway, people tend to congregate outside in the hallway before and after the meetings. It's kind of people just kind of gather.
Or if there's a big training for other agencies that come in, for them to then, as they're coming in and out, it's really providing that space for them to flow in and out of.
Yeah, so as we start adding furniture and stuff like
It'll
this,
bring
I
it to
think
scale
the scale's
a little
gonna
bit
look a lot more intimate.
Okay, the second option, again, for reference, the same views. So if you're standing at the star, you're looking towards the elevators again. And then on the second floor, if you were to come off the elevator and look back towards the vestibule. So on the right-hand side, again, we're showing that stone come in from the exterior. And then a different idea with the railing here where maybe it is more of a glass railing, so it's a little more open, and then having some sort of wood wrap that soffit from the second floor to the first floor. Then on the elevator area there, taking potentially maybe like a metal mesh or something, bringing that up the elevators onto the ceiling, and you're seeing how here it's wrapping onto the wall where the records window is. Again, still need to develop things in all of these, but that was just kind of the second option there.
The advantage to that, is it glass or thick plastic of that railing instead of?
It would be glass.
It would be glass, tempered glass.
Just what came to mind, oh my God, people are gonna be touching that and fingerprints all over. Cleaning that.
You know, that was a concern in the library, because we had a lot of debate about the railings in the library, and if you go look, it's all glass. I don't think it's been too bad, and they've got a lot of kids in there, but here, I mean, all on the second floor is administrative staff and investigations, right? So,
Right.
I guess if the chief has a problem, their officers are grabbing the glass. That's a disciplinary issue, I guess. I don't know.
It'd be easier to find out who it was.
Good point, good point. You need the fingerprints then, okay.
And then the third option is looking at another, so you've got a different view here too, sorry. The second view that's up in the right-hand corner is if you're standing back by Citizens Report and so over by the elevator lobby, looking back towards the vestibule, just to explain that. But then on the left-hand side, this is a little bit more playful or not as, what do I wanna say, maybe not as formal, in the sense that how we're playing with shapes, it still is very clean lined and still very professional, but a little bit more welcoming in the materials maybe. You've got wood that wraps up the elevator and would break up into shapes and come over on the ceiling. Those could be lighting, it could be acoustical material that's hung from the ceiling. You see in the top right how those shapes start to then disperse as you get into the lobby. And then
Can you explain what's on the wall, the elevator wall, what are those round things, are those cutouts or paste on things?
it would be cutouts. So you're looking at more of maybe
Three-dimensional type thing.
you have like a three-dimensional plane that has a cutout that's going back to drywall, if you will. And then
To the ceiling.
I'm not a fan of those things on that wall.
Well, they're not really on the wall,
Oh,
they're
closer, okay.
what you do is you cut them out, put them on the ceiling, that's what
Yeah.
Andy said,
Well,
that's.
it looks better now from
Yeah, it's like,
closer,
yeah, it's
but-
like consider like a positive and a negative.
yes. It's just a different take.
Yeah.
So can you put all three of these side by side, or is that too much?
Somehow you did it before, Beth.
That's his one. Like that. I could live without those cutouts.
So I guess there you go, three side by side, a little smaller. Any thoughts?
I like option two, you know, I like the glass, gives you that formal feeling without being too formal. And then along the wood section, you could add the police department's values or mission statement as people are walking in.
Or give a community room signage and everything.
I like the cleaner lines and
I do too.
2 or 3, but I think probably 2 better.
So no product or the comment I had earlier this morning on option 1, looks like the jail cells.
That's
Well, yeah, well, that's a good point. Outfit dress.
Good news is like a jail cell don't look like that.
Yeah.
I like two also.
Yeah.
The fingerprints convinced me to keep the glass.
You do DNA testing now.
That's true.
the light fixture, it's a double helix.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, two.
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 Yeah.
You don't like that?
I
You like
do,
that
I do.
option 2?
I do.
So you all like it looking at the image on the left, what do you think of the options for what was happening kind of at the other end? Do you think having some kind of an object in the space that's maybe made up of lighting or acoustical material? Or do you like this, how the element kind of squiggles its way down the wall?
Okay, I'm not picturing,
Yeah, let me go.
Yeah, we'll zoom in on those other,
So you could, but what he's saying is you could take that from this,
Yeah,
not the railing, but the thing is take that light.
That's nice.
I think it would be nice to include some kind of
Mhm.
sculptural lighting element even in this left-hand side. One thing that I kind of just came up with before this meeting started was because it was brought up earlier today about really making that community entrance more prominent, you know? So I'm actually wondering if we flip the way that it's wrapping and wrap it somehow to align with the community room opening so that you have this connection and more of an emphasis on the community room. That way. And it doesn't have to be a solid, you know, it could still be this transparent material.
Or you could just have a wall come down, you could have,
You could, yeah,
from the second floor, I mean, because it wouldn't be very wide with 5-6 feet or something like that.
right.
Well, I like that thing that's hanging from the ceiling there. I like that.
I think it'd be tough to bring that around to the community room because you have the railing.
But you could just wall that in, though, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Just, you know, it's just a narrow wall, about 6 feet wide.
Yeah. The one thing that I do think that would be nice too, and again, it doesn't have to be solid, it could be transparent of some sort, but it might also give a little bit of privacy if you're on the first floor to the second floor. In one of the plans, there is some seating up there, so you're not completely hidden if it's transparent, but it just gives you that feeling and sense if you're sitting there that you're not so wide open in the middle.
It would be just like smoke glass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, so it's,
Yeah,
if you're taking like a dark element, and then we get that section, we just smoke glass, whole bit, you know,
yeah,
ceiling height.
yeah, definitely.
Here's a thought, if you, I'm not sure what you were thinking about for floor treatment, I hadn't heard anything about it yet, and by the way, I like option 2 for my 2 cents worth. If you want to emphasize the entrance to the community room from the main entrance, you could also inlay something in the floor that suggests a path to the community room, if you want to do it that way. I think trying to do it overhead is looking like it's a struggle.
Is it?
yeah, that makes sense.
I think we need to explore both options and see what,
Yeah.
And they're not mutually exclusive either. You can do something in the floor that aligns with that opening that maybe comes up and maybe it's not a wall, but maybe it's a glass railing, but that section of the railing allows the wood to come up. And then the ceiling element aligns with that.
yeah,
If I'm following this thing, I was just thinking, would it be possible that to add a little bit of color?
Oh, yeah,
oh yeah, we still
Other
will.
than, I mean, to that design.
Yeah,
So that,
yes,
okay, I love the way it is there, but it's something, I don't know, I like reds, I like yellows, something, just to make it a little bit more.
You know, like
Yeah.
institutional.
again, we have no flooring in these, we have no, so there's still, yes, that extra layering that we'll layer on top of.
And what came to mind when I see this thing on the right, you know how they have those, I think it's glass, blown, is that blown glass or glass?
Like a chip
Sculptures,
movie.
yeah, they're beautiful and, I mean, I don't know if we can do that, but I mean, it brings color. I mean,
Yeah.
something different to the
Yeah.
room.
Definitely.
One thing, yeah, so there will be some public access up there on that second floor, you know, that's, what you're seeing up there around by the second floor elevator in that lobby, it's just, that part is open to the public, you know, they get up and they get access into the administrative wing or the,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying, there's a small amount of public space up there.
Okay. Anything else on that item? Hearing none. Item number 7, review of schematic design plans.
Reagan, if you wanna do it, or you want me to walk through? So this was just, a lot of the plan is still very similar to how we saw it last time. We've just had some further development as we've met with the police department. So overall, we still, have the garage, we're still showing, the tactical training bay. And then also incorporated now into the lower level are some additional areas for mechanical space, HVAC equipment, things like that. And then to round out the lower level, we still have the evidence storage and processing area, along with some other support spaces for all the officers.
To make that a little bigger, I couldn't read.
Yeah, so.
There we go. Oh, okay.
So it's just a little bit more development, like I said, we're showing additional mechanical space, some storage space.
So we did have some unexcavated area, which basically we're just not excavating and putting in a mechanical underneath it and building storage.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing where the mechanical and the fire riser is on the right side, that was unexcavated before, so.
That allows us to bring all the mechanical equipment indoors rather than putting it on a rooftop, so the longevity of the equipment is better. It performs a little bit better, it's easier to maintain.
You know, and as I think about this, is some of the comments that we get, especially when people compare, different police facilities and everything. And I think one thing that people need to realize, some police facilities do not store evidence in their police facility, they store externally at a totally different building. So, when we look at this kind of stuff, you gotta, compare apples to apples as far as the specifications. And that's one thing that really pops out at me. And then I don't think the dispatch room is on this one, but not all police stations also have their own, dispatch area.
Right.
So, when we get people that go, well, this, police station was
Why
cheaper.
so big?
They really don't go into what are the specifications, what actually occurs in that police station. And you are gonna get different, price tags. But I just want the public to know that those are the things that you really gotta look at, is what's actually in the building, and make sure that the police station you're comparing it to actually have those same elements in there.
Right. They don't know what's goes on.
Right, and even this number, I checked with CIVMIC before we got started, beginning of 2023, maybe 2022. Actually in 2022, and Fitchburg, along with, I think, Beloit, were the only two cities on the central west side of the state without interior parking out of all the law enforcement agencies. We're just one of two.
We don't have interior park, do we, Madison? No, just the city.
So for your spot, yeah. I think Midtown does.
It's not fun in the winter time.
So that's the first floor.
Yeah, so that's the lower level, which just walks out to the back parking lot. The first floor, starting here with the public lobby with the images that Reagan just went through. Again, we have kind of the records area off to the south here, and then the north wing is primarily the large multi-purpose room with some social worker and some support spaces. We have the officer locker room, and then the fitness and DAP training space.
Okay, now with the locker room, what did come up is whether there should be a separate male, female locker room with gender neutral also. Are we still?
So we're still currently showing the separate male-female. I know that's been a debate, so we were waiting for further direction before we change anything.
There is, if you scroll down, you see there is a universal shower locker.
Yeah, we have kind of a universal toilet, and then adjacent to that is a universal locker with 4 lockers.
Okay, and we do, just so the public knows, and we probably won't discuss it here, we do have a survey from the officers about that. And plus what I, said in council when this came up, I would like to see more policies that we could probably do internally of what's going on around the country. Because one thing, you know, when people say inclusive, I don't think you could just look at one group and say if one group's inclusive, then everybody is. I mean, there's also some religious and cultural issues that we gotta, I think, pay attention to, as far as doing this. So, you know, as far as the whole inclusive part of it, I would like to see where we're making sure that all those different groups that are protected groups, to include religious, handicapped, and other cultural groups, that we are also taking that into consideration. So,
Sometimes when you're inclusive of one group, you're excluding other groups.
Exactly. Right. And in the UW-Madison, they have a very good policy, and I'll send that to you, Chief, along to the union president. They have a very good policy, how they actually articulate their inclusiveness as far as the university is concerned.
I spoke with NHR, and it's interesting because this is one where I'll stutter because we don't know what the right thing is to say or how we're gonna offend somebody and how you say it. But I spoke to an HR director from a bigger agency than Fitchburg. And they had the same, there was a move that they were going to push towards one locker room, bathroom area. And in doing that and doing their research, they realized that even if they went that route, they still have to have, best practice would be to have the universal shower locker for somebody, regardless of how they identify, to say, I don't feel comfortable, there's something wrong, I need some private space. So even if you did one all-encompassing locker room, you will still need that other area for somebody who says, I just don't feel comfortable in using this space. So when they decided, when they were looking at it that way, and very similar to the meeting last Wednesday, is once you build it, it works good where you have a small agency, or like the Fitchburg Fire Department that has 4 people changing in a locker room that has 3 changing room showers. Well, it works. But when you're talking about this department maybe getting to the point where you have maybe 20 people in that locker room changing between shifts, would you be able to sustain the amount of bathrooms? And one of those things now, it becomes a cost. Like the agency that I was talking to, learning some of their part last week, which they ended up keeping it a male-female locker room and having a universal area. So now if somebody, you can use anyone that, you know, you could use the one that you feel most comfortable with, but even in that, I don't feel comfortable because of something going on either with my body or something I don't feel comfortable there, I have this other space to go to, if that makes sense. And I learned that from their HR who went through all of this over a year ago.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Chief, because when you said comfort, that's what the UW policy actually says, what you feel comfortable with, and then they added the word, what's affirming to you.
Right.
So I thought those 2 words are actually pretty important, and like I said, I'll share what they have actually put out. So while we're considering that, and you'll probably get more, we're gonna talk about it a lot more, so thank you.
So are you making the same accommodation for the community when they come in? I mean, they're gonna have universal,
There are,
they're,
Yeah, off the public lobby, we have 4 individual toilet rooms,
I mean, that should be,
so.
enough. They're not gonna come to take showers or anything like
No,
that.
no.
So I think we're safe there.
Yeah, bathrooms are pretty much, we're seeing a lot of newer buildings, hospitals,
They're all individuals, but they're not.
individual toilets. But I think that's what the chief is saying, if you're to do this, you almost have the same thing for all, you have to have 20 of those,
right.
you know, and with showers.
Right.
Mhm.
So
I think we have a
then,
budget issue now, it gets worse. Yeah.
and then continuing down on this zone, so we have the records department, this darker green is the dispatch department with their kind of IT support spaces.
Mhm.
We have some interview rooms that are accessible off the lobby and off the staff side. this yellow space is denoting all of the patrol, sort of the sergeant work areas, the lieutenants, and then their support spaces. And then I'll jump up, so across the hall from patrol, we kind of created a hub here. They have sort of staff restrooms, a nice staff break room for all the officers, in close proximity to the roll call room. Everything's sort of kind of grouped here off the main corridor. And then this purple area towards the bottom here is all the booking and holding.
Yeah, the other thing that sometimes people bring up is the space. And, just to note that, departments expand, society changes, technology changes, and these police departments fill up pretty quickly if you're not really planning ahead.
Yeah.
Just with Madison, we were busting out of the steams down in downtown station because, I was in charge of overseeing the creation of a special investigations unit, a mental health unit, a community outreach and resource education unit. And I mean, those are like 5 people and a sergeant. And that was in a period of maybe a couple of years. And I mean, our space just went away. And actually, when I was there, we had to build a midtown station on Mineral Point Road because the West District was getting just packed. And now the department's gonna be building a new South Station, make it bigger. So, people think that, well, you got all this room and everything, but when you consider that science, technology, and society changes, we don't know what units are gonna be in there, especially when we're talking about partnering with mental health as far as being part of the police operation.
The interview, so your interview suite, what are we talking about? Is that one big room or what is?
So, we call it a suite because it's sort of a grouping of these 3 spaces. So it's a soft interview room, which would be used more for,
Right.
a victim. There's a designated restroom in here, and then more of a hard interview room, which is really just a table and chairs. So we call it hard interview because it's,
So this would be, correct me if I'm wrong, this is more of a non-custody interviews.
yes.
Like she said, victims, potential suspects, but you don't want them to feel like they're under arrest, things like that.
They have access right off the lobby, so you're not.
So when you have a major incident,
Then they'll probably go to the booking area.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
booking area also has 2
Yeah.
additional
okay.
rooms.
okay.
And then additionally, we do have, we're calling them citizen report rooms off the lobby, which are more for, one-on-one meetings, things of that sort, that can be used as dual purpose. And then additionally, we have the social worker, which in a pinch could act as a backup, soft interview room, things like that. So, and a lot of those are accessible off the lobby, so they're nice and easy to get to. You don't have to bring somebody back into the station. You can come up and meet them off the lobby.
And where's dispatch?
Green.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
Just,
The evidence room, when you have big items, I know the car you have indoor for that, but you have, I don't know.
Yes, adjacent, so down off the staff parking lot, adjacent to the vehicle garage is the, we have another smaller room with a roll-up door that's for large evidence storage. So this would be more of temporary storage,
Right.
and then once it turns into long-term, we can move it into this room here.
Okay,
And
very
that's all
good.
connected to the main evidence area.
In that large evidence room, I mean, well, on the diagram it looks small, but, I'm just thinking about freezers and drying cabinets and all that other kind of stuff that also needs to go in there.
So, we have the freezers and refrigerators shown here
Okay.
in this, sort of the property evidence areas, we're calling it. Blood drying cabinets, things like that would be located inside the
Okay.
lab.
Okay. And we'll have the specialized equipment for packaging, drugs and everything, as far as the fuming hoods and,
Yes, so within the lab, we'll have fuming hoods, blood drying, I think fingerprinting. Yeah, we met 2 weeks ago with the department and went really into detail of all the different equipment and everything they're gonna need in there.
Where are the evidence lockers in there?
So these are the pass-through lockers. So these are passed through from bag and tag directly into evidence, from the lab into evidence, and then this would be a sort of temporary.
I think we have some more temp lockers going in the bag and tag area, but we had some larger shifting going on in the basement, so we're gonna get that next level of just granular detail in there the next 2 weeks, so.
then I'm thinking evidence, so where would people go to get their fingerprints, like if they're teachers or, applying for teachers? Where would they go for that? In a records area, I assume?
So we did talk about that up on the first floor. I think they would, we talked about having an additional machine off a citizen report room. At this point, the PD did not want to invest in that. I think they're gonna bring them back to the booking area and do it on that machine.
That makes sense.
Then often you do it, if you're only doing it like once a week or something, it's probably not worth the expense,
Yeah, no,
but,
that
makes sense.
if it's 5 times a day, well, then you look at it differently,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, we discussed it, and at this point, they didn't feel that the need was as frequent, so they didn't want to dedicate it.
And I wonder if you're gonna get away from that, more DNA stuff now almost, You wonder if fingerprints will go away at some point.
Well, I'm just thinking, I don't know if teachers would want to give up DNA.
What are yours? I told myself, things change a lot.
That's true, you're right, I just said that.
And then up on the second floor, so again, in kind of this yellowish color, we're showing sort of the second floor lobby is really more of kind of that balcony area overlooking the main level. You can come up either via the stairs or the elevator. To the north is the command suite. Several offices, a large conference room, a smaller meeting room, and some copies area and storage area. Then to the south is the detectives area. Again, they have access off the lobby, but also a back access for staff. Large major case conference area that can be flexible with lots of power options and ability to kind of have breakout against the wall for workstations. Some of their office suites down here in the corner, and then a large open area, sort of the bullpen for all the detective workstations, and then a few other storage, cybercrime, crime analyst, and the court liaison. Then,
That stairs going down from that floor, they go to the lobby or to the?
So both of these stairs will go all the way down to the basement, but there will be controls. So the public stair would obviously have,
Right.
controlled access. And then this would be the primary staff stairwell.
But from the detective area suite, you said there were stairs? It says copy, cybercrime.
Court liaison, crime
There's some,
analyst.
are those stairs next to the door?
No,
Oh.
there's only 2 stairs.
Okay, I thought I was.
The gray one
Okay.
the gray one's staff, and the right one is public, with some restrictions, the public won't be able to get down to the basement, they'll go from first to second floor.
Right, yeah, going to the basement was more for people coming for the training range.
Right,
Oh.
but you don't want to get down on the squad cars and stuff,
No.
Copy area.
Yeah, it's.
so there'll have to be some kind of
We'll have
restriction.
some card access coordination. Yeah, and then to fill out the second floor, we have some restrooms, janitor, a staff wellness room, and then a small break area.
So what is that above the secure corridor, what's that white space there?
This is just the vestibule to get into the restrooms with some drinking fountains.
That's the restroom, 2 stalls, 3 stalls? Is that-
Yeah, so 3 toilets in the women's and then 1 toilet and 2 urinals for the men's.
So will the staff wellness area, can that be also a lactation room, or is there a separate lactation room?
Yes, so there are 2 or 3 staff wellness rooms?
3.
3, and the idea is that they could double as a lactation room.
Are the refrigerators in there then, or are they small?
Yeah, we usually do a small under counter fridge.
Yeah, shouldn't need a fridge in there for.
Yeah. And what kind of furniture would you put in there? I know that can be an issue too, sometimes, like nice comfortable recliners or chairs or.
A recliner for sure.
No, I mean, it's
So
a
much right ahead,
that's an
you
issue.
need a bit of recliner.
Yeah, and we might do a variety of different seating too,
Okay.
in each of them, so.
Those are all the latest updates we have.
Okay. Any questions?
See how we fill the space? And people out there don't know that, hey, yeah.
I'll tell you, it's been a challenge, these public meetings have been a challenge, the council meetings have been a challenge. And, you know, I don't wanna step away, but we have so many things going on right now that this is exhausting us.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, and I thank you all for helping, because it means a lot that there's other input that's supporting the building and you're giving us your input, so we really appreciate it.
Rather build it right now. I mean, people are upset about the cost now, they're gonna be even more upset when we come back in a decade and say it was underbuilt and we need another one.
Absolutely.
Right.
Actually, talk about costs, I have to bring this up because I just read about it. About the cost of the jail, that was $149 million in 2019, now it's up over $200 million that they gotta, that have to approve.
Wanna help you build a type 1 facility for the state?
Oh, no.
I spoke with Chief Barnes yesterday. We have entire support from almost everyone in Dane County law enforcement to accuse some of the federal agencies for the training component. Madison spoke with Chief Barnes yesterday. They're 6 months out booked in their training piece, and he goes, I'm trying to get more training for my people.
Yeah.
They have, because most departments are struggling with staffing, that means more frequent police academies, which means their training facility is going to be busy training new police officers. And on top of that, you know, they still wanna be open to other agencies, but now if he wants to bring additional training, they're booked. And the same with the Dane County Sheriff's Office. So if they're booking with their round-the-clock academies and classes, they're not really open to allowing many of the other jurisdictions to have time. So we're booking, we already have to book our dates for the fall sessions that to meet our minimum standards. So they obviously are gonna support, and they are supporting the training component to Fitchburg, but this is just opening it up to other jurisdictions to come here as well.
Well, Chief, just to back that up too, because just listening to the conversations we have in council, and, you know, the way sometimes training is portrayed is that we're just out there training just out there to hurt people and everything else like that on purpose. And I don't think people understand that part of training, you know, some of the situations I looked at back in my career, you also train to build up people's confidence, especially that they can defend themselves without using deadly force, that they can, you know, learn how to operate a vehicle, you know, properly in emergency situations, so they understand, you know, what skills they have. And that, yeah, I need to slow down or whatever. But we train for the safety, not only of ourselves, but of the community, and actually putting a better product out there. And I think sometimes the narrative goes out, you know, people, well, we don't want you to train because you're just gonna go out there and hurt people now. And it's like, that can't be further from the truth. And I think that's backed up by the insurance companies who want us to train, and it's backed up by every single police expert. And when I say police expert, I'm talking about people who are in the field, have years of experience, people who study this stuff at universities and the police executive research forum. Those are the experts. And it's not expert people who, basically, and I'll just be blunt, don't like the police. So they try to find stuff on the internet to say, oh, look how bad the police are. And, it's not fair to the officers of the Fitchburg Police Department to have people who are publicly saying that stuff. Because one, I think, and Rosa and I was talking about this a little bit, it does not make the city look good where people don't feel that they have the support, especially of elected officials. And I count on these, and I'm kind of talking, saying my piece here, but I count on these officers who have pride in this department to go out and actually recruit people for this department. I am not going to, if I'm on this department, I don't feel I have support. I'm not going to tell people that I think would be good police officers to actually join this department. I don't think people understand that there was a survey that went out with police officers. Would you have your recommend the police on the police field or your relatives to be police officers? I got 2 sons that would be excellent police officers. In fact, my younger son is going, he's planning to be in the Peace Corps. I told both my sons, no, you do not want to go into policing. And I think that's a shame that I had to say that. But when we get these people just throwing out rhetoric out there without support, and I just think it's bad for the policing profession when you don't get that support. So I thought I just had to say that, because it's something that's just been, in my mind a lot, especially during the talk about this facility and all the comments that have been coming out that are just so off the wall. It's not even funny. So, with that being said, item number 8, adjournment.
So there's one thing for adjournment. So I'm not sure when the next meeting will be yet, so I have to touch base with FGM and Andrew, who couldn't be here today. And so we'll send an email out probably mid-February, kind of a poll of dates once we get that kind of figured out. So stay tuned for the next meeting.
This might be my last meeting because after March, and I want to say I'm sad. I'm moving out of Fitchburg, which I would love to stay involved and see this process, all the way through.
There's Zoom.
But but I don't know, I won't be arrested. But anything I can do between now and the end of March, maybe, I don't know how you decide to put together something for communicating with the community and the council. I would love to get involved in that if you think I could be of any help, so you might need to look for somebody else too.
I'll mention that to the mayor and see.
We thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Your insight has been actually great, so I appreciate the work you have put into this.
So if there's not a meeting in March, if there is a meeting in March, I will be here, but if there isn't, I won't.
All right, stay tuned.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye, meeting is adjourned at 4:24 p.m.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.